everyone, Sabrina here from Scrappy Tales Crafts, and today I'm going to show you my first 5 cards that I created with the Simon Says Stamp April 2020 card kit. Right now I'm just showing you what comes in the kit. You get a 4x6 stamp set that has that really pretty girl with the umbrella. You get a cloud stencil, these beautiful, beautiful pattern papers, and then you're going to get some ink cubes, but I received the wrong colored inks. I think you're supposed to get like an assortment of rainbow colors, but I got a pack of yellow inks, which is fine because I love yellow and I already have a lot of inks to make rainbows, so it wasn't a huge deal for me. But you should be getting some rainbow colored inks in your kit, hopefully. And then you get some coloring sheets. You get 4, and I think these are printed on watercolor paper, but you can also use your Copics. You get 2 envelopes, and then you get your colored sheets of cardstock, and these are heavyweight, so I cut these down to be my card bases for today's video. Alright, so I'm going to start card 1 here by coloring in one of the coloring sheets from the kit. Now part 1 has a lot of coloring, and I left it all in because I always am requested to leave it in, and so I think instead of me rambling about how I color things, I'm going to address a question that I've been getting a lot lately. But before I do that, I'll just quickly tell you how I do color in case you're interested. I always start with my darkest marker and lay out my shadow areas. In the case of all my cards, I left a center highlight, so you can see I left quite a bit of white space in the center of that ray on the rainbow. I go over the dark areas with my mid-tone color, and then instead of using a lightest marker, I use my watercolor brush with my zigs instead to create my own highlight color. So here with the yellow, I just added my darker color. I'm going to add my mid-tone, and then I left just a little bit of white in the center, and I'm going to take my water brush and pull that pigment starting from the darkest area towards the center to create that highlight. So that's what I'll be doing for the rest of my coloring in today's video and then also in part 2. So I've been getting this question so much lately, and it is, how is my business doing throughout this crazy time we're living in? And at first I got this question a lot from my customers. I have some subscribers who are my customers. I meet them at craft shows and they're curious as to how I make my cards. They actually don't believe I make them, if you can believe it. And instead of trying to explain what stamping and die cutting is, I just redirect them to my YouTube channel and they can see exactly how I create the cards that they're buying. So at first I got the question from them, and then I got the question from some other card makers and other card making Etsy sellers. So I just decided to answer this question on a video just because I feel like that way I can reach a larger audience of the people asking me this question. If you don't care, you can just mute me and watch me color instead, but basically to answer that question is I have been impacted by the virus, but not as bad as some other Etsy sellers have. So in the beginning of March, I didn't get any orders. So around the time that Trump announced a travel ban, when people started panicking buying toilet paper and Germex and all that, I wasn't getting any orders and I was really discouraged. I thought it was just going to get worse. But as states announced stay-at-home orders and quarantines started happening, I saw a huge amount of orders coming in, like the amount of orders I usually get for Christmas, and Easter is usually not a big holiday for me. So it was kind of shocking, and I think the reason why is because people were at home and were bored, so maybe they went online shopping, and I think also people didn't want to go to card stores and touch cards that have already been touched by a lot of other people, so they were buying cards online instead. And then especially when Trump announced the 30-day extension, I saw a lot of orders coming in, and I think that's because people realized, Easter isn't going to happen this year. There's not going to be any packed churches. There's not going to be any egg hunts. So people figured that they should at least send a card to let people know that they're thinking about them on Easter. And I think the other thing is, people are being more frugal about how they're spending their money. And so maybe they can't afford a gift for Easter, but they can at least afford a card. So, I mean, that's what I think. But basically, the sales that I made at the end of March made up for the lack of sales at the beginning, which was shocking to me because last year in March I was making like around the same amount throughout the whole month, pretty steady. Whereas this time it was like nothing to like I was packing a lot of orders a day. So back to the card. I die cut some hearts from the pattern paper, and this is a Cottage Cuts die. I will have everything extra that I used listed down below, and if the kit's still available, I will also link that down below. But I die cut those hearts from the pattern paper. I also die cut them from some black cardstock because these hearts have little frames that go around them, and I thought it would be cute to have the frames be black since the image that I colored up, the outline of it was black. So I'm going to glue these hearts over the hearts on the panel. I just thought that these were cuter, and honestly, I struggled kind of coming up with ways to use these coloring sheets in a out-of-the-box way. So the hearts was the best thing I can come up with, honestly. So I'm going to glue this watercolor panel to a card base that I created from the cardstock in the kit. I'm going to add that last black frame to the heart at the bottom. And then I'm just going to embellish this card with some Trinity Stamps Fairy Rocks gems. I added them going from a diagonal to the top left to the bottom right, and I just attached them with my art glitter glue, and that's going to complete my first card. So for card 2, I'm going to die cut this heart from one of the pattern papers in the kit. This is an Elizabeth Craft heart that I'm using. And then I'm going to take the girl from the stamp set. I'm going to ink her up with VersaFine Onyx Black ink and stamp her onto this white Nina panel cut to 4 by 5¼ inches. So for this card, I was really inspired by one of the design team's cards. She stamped this image and white heat embossed her onto a pattern piece of paper, and she didn't color it in, which I thought was really cool. I liked that look. So I wanted to do that, but I'm going to use VersaFine and clear heat emboss it instead of white heat embossing it because I wanted part of her to be black and white, and then the portion where it overlaps the heart will be that pretty rainbow. I'm also going to stamp out thank you onto that white panel. And then I'm also going to stamp out another sentiment onto this black stitched banner, which is by Trinity Stamps. I will add some of the white embossing powder that came in the kit. I think I forgot to show the powder in the beginning when I was showing the kit contents, but you do get some white embossing powder. So I added that to the banner, and then I'm going to add clear embossing powder over all of my black stamped images. So I'm just going to heat set those. And then I do color in that thank you. I colored in blue and purple because those were the only two colors that weren't in the heart. So I wanted to include them to complete the rainbow. I'm going to add foam tape behind the heart and pop it up right over the black and white image, making sure it lines up. And in here I'm going to take some Copic markers and then just add some blue and purple to that thank you sentiment. And then that black banner I'm going to glue right underneath. And I loved the sentiments from this kit, and they work perfectly for the times that we're living in right now. They're great encouragement sentiments. So I felt like this card needed something, so I die cut some white hearts from this Sue Wilson die. I'm going to show you it in a second. And it basically just cuts out a whole bunch of tiny hearts, and I cut it from white so I can color them in with my Copics. And I just colored them in rainbow colors. There's the die I'm showing you. It's by Sue Wilson. I also die cut that die from some black cardstock so that I can add that over my heart. So I liked the idea of having the rainbow on the black and white panel, the rainbow hearts, and then the black hearts on the rainbow heart, the large rainbow heart, if that makes sense. So I really like this card. It was really quick to put together. You can definitely mass produce this one and send a whole bunch of encouragement cards out. I'm going to mat this onto some black cardstock and then adhere that to my card base, and that's going to complete my second card. Here is a close-up. All right, for card 3, I'm going to color up another one of those coloring sheets from the kit. And you saw me color the rainbow on the first card, so I'm just going to show you how I colored in the letters and the clouds. So back to what I was talking about. So yeah, I haven't been drastically impacted by the coronavirus in terms of my online sales, which I'm very grateful for because that makes up about 70% of my income. That includes Etsy, Amazon Handmade, and my own website. So I will say, although I haven't made less than last year, I haven't made more. So my mom is amazing, and she created a spreadsheet for me that she's been filling out since I opened my business in 2015, and she can tell me month by month how much I'm growing from the same month last year. And for every other month for the past 5 years, I've grown about 10 to 15% from the previous year. So for March, that wasn't the case. I made the exact same amount that I made last year, and I can't say for certain that it's because of the coronavirus, but I mean, I think it's a pretty strong correlation just based on the lack of sales I got in the beginning of the month, but I can't say for certain. Now, in terms of in-person sales, that's another story. I basically have lost all in-person sales, so I sell my cards at a lower price to local boutiques. I sell to multiple gift shops and brick and mortar stores around the United States. I sell to a Tampa wedding planner and then also to a local museum. All of those sources are gone. So they're all either closed, some of them have shut down, which is really sad, and obviously there's no weddings happening, so I haven't been getting any of those orders this month, and I assume for the next 2 or 3 months. And I also can't go to craft shows anymore. Those have all been canceled for the rest of the year, which is a bummer because not only is that a nice extra bit of money I can make, but it's also the one time I can really talk to my customers in person and get real life feedback. So I don't have that anymore, unfortunately. But okay, back to the card. I fussy cut that watercolor panel. I cut around the rainbow and also the words, and now I'm taking the cloud stencil from the kit and some gray cardstock, and I'm going to ink blend some black soot onto this panel. I have a very light hand. This color is actually black, so you don't want your clouds to be black. I mean, maybe you do, I don't know, but I wanted mine to be just a dark gray, so I was light-handed with my blending. Here is the fussy cut panel. I'm going to add art glitter glue behind it and attach it to this gray cloud background. I thought that the gray would be a nice contrast against those bright colors. And I think this looks really pretty. I love it. I love the sentiment on it. And just to embellish this card, I'm going to take those hearts from that Sue Wilson die and just scatter a few of those to kind of look like raindrops. And I use these hearts for a lot of my cards that I created with this kit. So I'm going to color them in with my zigs. I'm just going to use one marker. Some of these hearts are minuscule, so they were a little bit fussy, but I really enjoyed working with them. They kind of acted as sequins or embellishments on my card. So once those hearts are colored in, I'll just attach them to my panel with my art glitter glue, and then I'll glue the entire panel onto a white card base, and that will complete my third card. So I'm curious to know how the coronavirus has impacted you, whether that be financially or personally. I know the unemployment rate right now is 4.4%, which is scary. So my heart goes out to you all that might be furloughed or laid off. And One thing that Etsy has done for Etsy sellers, which I think is amazing, I don't know if it's going to go anywhere or not, but they provided their sellers with a form that you can fill out. It's pretty much already done for you. You just fill out a few things and you can mail it to your congressman and ask for unemployment money. So I did it. I mean, why not? I don't know, like I said, if it'll go anywhere. It's kind of a stretch because self-employed individuals don't pay unemployment taxes. But I think given the circumstances, you never know, and you don't know if you don't try. So I tried it and I can update you guys if that goes anywhere or not. But if it does, that would be great because, like I said, that will make up for the 30% I lost out this month. And I will be qualified to get the $1,200 relief check. So that will also really help me out. So yeah, let me know how the coronavirus has impacted you guys. I know these are some crazy times, but I really do think that once this is all over, we're going to come out of it even stronger. Even though this whole thing is a disaster and our country was not prepared for a pandemic, I think in a lot of ways it has brought some positive aspects, especially in the card making world. People are making cards for nurses and cashiers and first responders, and I think that's amazing. All 10 of these cards would be great to give to nurses. Rainbows are a sign of hope, and these cards basically represent that after the storm there will be a rainbow, and that's definitely what I'm hoping for and I'm optimistic about. So while I was rambling, I just basically created my fourth card. I ink blended some clouds onto a yellow panel. I used yellow inks. I should have used the yellow inks I got in the kit, but I completely forgot about them. So I stamped out the girl onto some Bristol paper. I also stamped her out onto that yellow ink blended panel. You can see I ink blended some orange clouds, and I used the clouds that are cut from the inside of the stencil to create those. And then for the rest of the background clouds in yellow, I used the edge of the stencil. All right, so I'm going to heat set those girls. I added clear embossing powder over them. I always tend to use embossing powder when I'm using my zigs because the embossing powder creates a boundary within your stamped image, so the water kind of stays within those lines. So it's very helpful if you're not a great watercolorist. I'm pretty sloppy, to be honest, so I always do this when I'm working with zigs. So I'm going to give this girl a pretty red umbrella. I also gave her red heels because I wanted her to be wearing Louis Vuitton heels, and the back of all his heels are red. So this girl is clearly trendy. I was drawn to this kit because of the pattern papers. They're stunning. I did not even want to use them. I just wanted to hoard them. So if there is a paper pack for them, I will link them down below because I'm definitely going to buy it after making these cards. I just want a paper piece everything rainbow right now. And I was also drawn to this kit because of this image. I love girl stamps in general. Actually, my craft room, I have 3 paintings of girls with big sun hats, like they're beach girls with big hats on. So, I don't know, I'm just drawn to like girly girl images such as this one. So, I colored her dress in yellow. I'm going to color in her legs. And then I'm going to fussy cut her out. I am cutting right on the black line. And she was really easy to cut out. Once I have her completely fussy cut, I'm going to go around the edges with a black marker just to clean my cut lines up a little bit. And then I'm going to pop her up over that yellow stamped girl. And the reason I stamped her onto the yellow panel is because I wanted those raindrops and that puddle underneath her feet. All right, and then I'm going to work on my sentiment. I thought I was going to add this thinking of you sentiment, which I stamped out with those yellow inks I got from the kit, but I didn't like it. I felt like 2 sentiments was too much, so I opted just to use my white heat embossed banner, and I just adhered that to the side of the girl with my art glitter glue, and then I wanted to add some more of my heart raindrops. So I'm going to color in a few of these white hearts red with my Copic markers, and then I'm also going to add a few black hearts just to add some more black into the card. And whenever I add any kind of embellishments, I always tend to add them going in a diagonal. I guess that's just what my eyes like. So yeah, that's going to complete my fourth card. I'm just going to mat it with some black cardstock. I love adding black to my scenes. I just love how it draws your eye in. And then I'll attach that to my card base. And that black panel will cover the entire card base. And that will complete card number 4. Here's a close-up. For my 5th card, I wanted to paper piece this girl. So I'm going to stamp her umbrella onto some of the pattern paper from the kit. And then I'm also going to stamp out her dress onto another sheet of the pattern paper. I chose these yellow hearts. And then I stamped her out onto some white Nina cardstock. I'm going to color in her legs with some Copic markers. And then of course I'm going to give her some Louis Vuitton heels. And then I'll also color in that puddle underneath her. And then I can glue my umbrella and her dress on. And this was really fast, and I love how this turned out. All right, and then I'm going to work on my card panel. So I'm taking a stitch rectangle die and an oval die. I'm going to cut the oval from the center of the rectangle, and that's going to frame the girl up really nicely. I'm also going to take that same Sue Wilson die that cuts out a bunch of hearts, and I'm going to die cut them from the rainbow pattern paper. You can see I saved every bit of scrap rainbow pattern paper that I could because I wanted to die cut from it. All right, I'm going to add acetate behind this oval, and I will be creating a shaker here. So I'm going to take my double mounted foam tape and just add that to the back of this panel. I'm also going to add a few strips of foam tape to those corners. And then I'm going to use those hearts that I die cut out from that Sue Wilson die as my shaker bits. And it didn't matter if they were upright or not because they were rainbow on both sides of the pattern paper. So I'm going to deepen that water beneath her so it matched her hat, her umbrella a little bit better. I also added a few tiny heart sequins from Trinity Stamps into that shaker window, and that's going to complete my shaker. Now, this rectangle die is by Elizabeth Craft, and I realized that it cuts a larger rectangle than an A2 card base. So I cut an A7 card base and it was too big. So this is an odd shaped card. I think it's 6 1/4 by 5 inches. So it will fit in a 5 by 7 envelope. But yeah, it's an unusual size, but I did not want to cut off any of that pretty pattern paper. So I added my sentiment banner to the bottom left, and then that will complete my final card for part 1. Stay tuned for part 2. If you haven't yet already, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you're notified when I post part 2. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to me rant for a majority of this video. If this kit is still available, I will be sure to link it down below as well as any extra supplies that I used. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!